If someone had told me my dream job would smell like old coffee, printer toner, and panic sweat, I would have laughed it off. I'm Lauren Carter, 32 years old, and I serve as keeper of the Silver Point Bay Lighthouse. People like to assume lighthouses have no place in the digital era, but they're mistaken. I oversee automated beacon systems, stay in constant contact with Coast Guard stations, and track shipping lanes through advanced radar networks. I had no idea that today's virtual maritime safety conference was about to change everything. My screen tiled over with faces from every corner of the Gulf Coast Maritime World Harbor Masters, environmental scientists, shipping executives. And then she appeared. Eliza Rowe, blonde hair scraped into a severe bun, blue eyes as sharp as winter sky. Her presentation title flashed, Sustainable Tea Cultivation. Coastal Agricultural Impact Assessment. Traditional farming methods destroy coastal ecosystems, she said, her voice so authoritative that everyone instinctively leaned in. My plantation in Plano has reduced water usage by 60% while increasing yield. I found myself studying her face, the way her lips moved when she spoke about soil composition. Professional interest, I told myself. Environmental preservation directly affects lighthouse operations. Miss Rowe, I interrupted during question period. How do you account for saltwater intrusion affecting inland crops during hurricane seasons? Her eyes locked onto mine through the screen. Excellent question, Miss Carter. Lauren Carter, Silver Point Bay Lighthouse. Miss Carter, she smiled, transforming her stern features completely. We've developed buffer zones using native grasses that actually filter storm surge before it reaches cultivation areas. The technical discussion that followed was electric. She challenged my assumptions about coastal erosion. I questioned her data on tidal influence. Other participants fell silent, watching our intellectual sparring match unfold. After the main session ended, private chat requests flooded my screen, but only one mattered. Eliza Rowe wanted to continue our conversation. You know more about coastal dynamics than most marine biologists I've met, she said when we connected privately. And you're revolutionizing agriculture in ways that could transform lighthouse district management, I replied. Her laugh was low, rich. I'd love to show you the plantation sometime. See if our theoretical discussion holds up to practical implementation. My pulse quickened. Professional collaboration, nothing more. I'd be very interested in that environmental assessment opportunity. Perfect. She leaned closer to her camera, and I caught a glimpse of freckles across her nose. I'll send coordinates and scheduling options. This could be the beginning of a very productive partnership. The call ended, but her image lingered on my darkened screen. I sat in my lighthouse control room surrounded by navigation equipment and weather monitors, feeling something shift inside me like tectonic plates realigning. My colleague Kara knocked on the office door. How was the conference? Informative, I said, minimizing the chat window where Eliza's contact information glowed. Might have found a new consulting opportunity. Good, you need to get out more. This lighthouse is becoming your entire world. If she only knew that my world had just expanded in ways I couldn't yet understand. Outside, autumn winds whipped across Silver Point Bay and the automated beacon swept its arc through gathering dusk. But for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about ships finding safe harbor. I was thinking about Eliza Rowe's smile and wondering what her tea plantation looked like in person. 3 weeks later, I drove through rolling hills toward Plano, my lighthouse duties temporarily covered by automated systems. Eliza's directions led me down a private road lined with native Texas oaks. Then I saw it. The Rowe tea plantation stretched across 200 acres. Emerald rows of Camellia sinensis plants creating geometric patterns against the landscape. The main house stood like something from a southern magazine. White columns, wraparound porch, but modernized with solar panels and sustainable architecture. I parked beside a Tesla Model S, feeling suddenly underdressed in my Coast Guard utility jacket. Miss Carter? Eliza emerged from the house wearing tailored khakis and a cream silk blouse. In person, she was taller than I'd imagined, probably 5'8" to my 5'4". Her blonde hair caught afternoon sunlight, and those blue eyes held the same intensity I remembered from our video call. Please call me Lauren. Lauren. She extended her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Welcome to Row Plantation. I'm eager to show you what we've accomplished here. We walked through processing facilities first. Stainless steel machinery hummed quietly. Temperature controls, maintaining precise environments for different tea varieties. Eliza explained oxidation processes, fermentation techniques, quality control measures. Her knowledge was encyclopedic. Annual production 50,000 pounds. Last year, we supplied boutique markets across Texas and Louisiana. She opened a container releasing fragrant steam. Try this Earl Grey blend with locally sourced bergamot. Her fingers brushed mine as she handed me the cup. The contact lasted a heartbeat longer than necessary. I sipped the tea watching her watch me. Incredible. The citrus notes are perfectly balanced. Family recipe? My grandmother started this plantation 40 years ago. She led me toward the cultivation fields. But you're here for environmental assessment, not tea appreciation. We spent 2 hours walking the property. I documented drainage systems, soil composition, water usage statistics. Eliza's sustainable practices impressed me. Buffer zones exactly as she described. Native plant barriers, rainwater collection systems that would make any environmentalist proud. Your erosion control is remarkable, I said, taking notes. These methods could work in lighthouse districts. That's what I was hoping you'd say. The sun was setting when we finished the technical tour. There's a restaurant 20 minutes away, Eliza said. Unless you need to drive back tonight. I booked a hotel room in town. Dinner sounds perfect. Romano's Italian bistro was intimate, candlelit tables and soft jazz playing. Not the business meeting atmosphere I'd expected. The hostess led us to a corner table. Wine? Eliza asked. The owner sources excellent selections from California vineyards. Red, please. She ordered a Cabernet Sauvignon that cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. When the sommelier left, awkward silence settled between us. So I said, tell me about starting the plantation. That must have been challenging, terrifying, actually. She smiled, relaxing slightly. I had an MBA and 10 years of corporate consulting experience. Zero agricultural knowledge. But grandmother left me the land, and I couldn't bear to sell it. What made you choose tea? Texas isn't exactly known for that crop. Stubbornness, probably. Everyone said it wouldn't work. Too hot, wrong soil composition, no market demand. She laughed. I spent 3 years proving them wrong. Our meals arrived. Conversation flowed easier now, moving from business to personal interests. She asked about lighthouse operations. Seemed genuinely fascinated by maritime rescue coordination. I found myself describing storm responses, equipment maintenance, the solitary beauty of beacon duty. It sounds lonely, she said. Sometimes, but also peaceful. There's something about being responsible for guiding ships safely to harbor. Knowing your light prevents disasters, like a guardian angel, he crept up my neck at the way she said it. I never thought of it that way. I did watching you during the conference. You have this intensity when you talk about coastal protection, like it's a personal mission. The wine was making me bold. What about you? Do you miss corporate consulting? God, no. Those boardrooms were suffocating. Here, I control my own destiny. Build something meaningful. She leaned forward slightly, though it can be isolating too. Not many people understand the commitment required. Our eyes met across the small table. Something electric passed between us, unspoken, but unmistakable. My heart hammered against my ribs. Lauren, she said softly, I should probably mention something. What? This isn't just about environmental consultation anymore. At least not for me. Before I could respond, she reached across the table. Her fingers traced across my knuckles, light as feathers, but burning like fire. Then she leaned forward, closing the distance between us. Our lips met in a kiss that tasted like wine and possibility. Brief, tentative, but charged with enough electricity to power my lighthouse beacon. When we separated, her blue eyes searched mine. Was that okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Everything had changed again, tectonic plates shifting beneath my carefully ordered world. The drive back to Silver Point Bay felt like traveling through a dream. My lips still tingled from that brief kiss, and I couldn't stop replaying the moment when Eliza's fingers traced my hand. Professional consultation had become something else entirely, something that made my chest tight with anticipation and anxiety. At the lighthouse, I threw myself into maintenance routines, calibrating beacon intensity, updating weather monitoring systems, reviewing shipping lane reports, but concentration was impossible. Every few minutes, my phone buzzed with a text from Eliza. "Thank you for dinner. I hope I didn't overstep boundaries." "You didn't," I replied, then deleted it. Too eager. Professional consultation was productive. Dinner was nice, too. Better. I'd like to continue our discussion about coastal erosion mitigation code for wanting to see me again. My hand shook slightly as I typed back. I have additional questions about your buffer zone implementation. Kara arrived for a shift, coffee in hand, and knowing look in her eyes. At 29, she was sharp, observant, and my closest friend at the lighthouse station. "You look different," she said, settling into the communications chair. "Different how glowing like you got some good news or good something else." Heat flooded my face. The plantation consultation went well. Learned some innovative environmental techniques. She grinned. "This wouldn't have anything to do with that blonde woman from the conference, would it?" "How did you, Lauren? I saw you during that video call." "You look like you've been struck by lightning." She sipped her coffee. "So, what's she like in person?" I busied myself with equipment checks, avoiding eye contact. Professional, knowledgeable, runs an impressive operation. And what? "And did you sleep with her?" "Kara, I nearly dropped the radar calibration tool." "It was a business meeting, right?" "That's why you've been checking your phone every 30 seconds for the past hour." My phone buzzed again. Text from Eliza. "Free for video call tonight. I have ideas about collaboration." My pulse quickened. Collaboration, another coded word. "I need to take this," I mumbled, stepping into the private office. The call connected at 9:00 p.m. Eliza appeared on screen wearing a soft gray sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, more relaxed. "Hi," she said, and her smile made my stomach flutter. "Hi yourself. How was the rest of your evening?" "Productive. I've been researching lighthouse preservation methods. Did you know the Galveston base station is one of only 12 still operating on the Gulf Coast?" "I did know that. It's why I transferred here 5 years ago." "From where?" "Coast Guard Station, Boston." "Different environment, but similar challenges." I leaned back in my chair. "What made you really call Eliza?" Her expression grew serious. "Honesty, please. I can't stop thinking about tonight. About that kiss." She paused. "I know this complicates our professional relationship, but I need to know if you felt it too." My heart pounded. Yes, I felt it. Where does that leave us? I stared at her image on the screen. She was an accomplished woman who'd built an empire from nothing, a woman who had kissed me like she meant every second of it. I didn't know what to do with that. I'd never been with a woman before, never blurred the line between business and personal feelings. The lie slipped out of me easily. The truth was, I'd never been with anyone who made me feel like this, man or woman. "We can keep things separate," Eliza said. "Professional consultation during office hours, personal exploration after." Is that what you want? What I wanted was simple and terrifying. What I want is to see you again soon without pretending it's just about environmental assessment. The confession lingered in the space between us, suspended in a digital connection. I thought about lighthouse protocols, professional guidelines, the cautious life I'd built on routine, duty, and solitude. "There's a beach access road about 5 miles south of my station," I heard myself say. "It's private, barely used. If you wanted to drive down this weekend, Saturday." "Saturday," she repeated. "I'll bring lunch. And maybe some tea samples for you to try. Eliza?" "Yes. This is crazy, isn't it?" Her laugh came warm and intimate. Probably. But I learned something building this plantation. Sometimes the craziest ideas end up being the best ones. After the call ended, I stayed in my office, listening to the waves crash against the rocky shore below. The lighthouse beam swept its eternal arc across the water, guiding ships through the dark towards safe harbor. Maybe it was time to let someone guide me towards something new. Saturday morning arrived wrapped in October sunlight and a jittery nervousness I couldn't shake. I had already cleaned the lighthouse twice, reorganized the equipment room, and checked the weather forecast more times than I'd admit. Clear skies, light winds, ideal conditions for a beach picnic with the woman who'd taken over my thoughts all week. Right at noon, Eliza's Tesla rolled into the secluded parking area I'd told her about. She emerged wearing jeans and a white cotton blouse, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. A wicker basket sat in her passenger seat. "This place is perfect," she said, surveying the empty beach stretching toward the horizon. "How did you find it?" "Night patrols. I walk the shore when I can't sleep, checking for debris that might affect navigation." I helped her carry the basket toward a driftwood log, which has been happening a lot lately. Insomnia, something like that. She spread a checkered blanket on the sand. I brought sandwiches from that Italian place and several tea varieties I thought you might enjoy. We settled beside each other, close enough that I could smell her perfume mixing with salt air. The lighthouse stood proud against the sky behind us, its beacon dark during daylight hours. "Tell me about your family," she said, unwrapping roast beef sandwiches. "Do they support your career choice?" "My parents died in a car accident when I was 24. Coast Guard became my family after that." I accepted the sandwich, avoiding her sympathetic gaze. "What about yours?" "Grandmother raised me after my parents divorced. She's the one who taught me that women could build empires if they were stubborn enough." Eliza poured tea from a thermos. "Try this. It's a white tea blend I developed." Our fingers brushed as she handed me the cup. The brief contact sent familiar electricity up my arm. "It's delicious, floral, but not overwhelming. Secret ingredient is jasmine flowers I grow specifically for blending." She moved closer, ostensibly to adjust the thermos. "Lauren, can I ask you something personal?" "Shoot. Have you ever been in a serious relationship with anyone?" Heat crept up my neck. "A few boyfriends over the years. Nothing that lasted. Work always came first." I met her eyes. "You?" "I was engaged once. Corporate lawyer named Daniel. Very suitable according to everyone who mattered." She laughed bitterly. "Took me 3 years to realize I was more excited about wedding planning than marrying him." "What happened?" "I called it off 6 months before the ceremony. Moved to Texas, started the plantation. Best decision I ever made." She studied my face. "Until recently, I thought romantic relationships were just another business transaction. Meet expectations, fulfill obligations, maintain appearances." And now, instead of answering, she leaned forward and kissed me longer this time, deeper. Her hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing across my skin. I kissed her back, tasting jasmine tea and possibility. When we separated, both breathing unsteadily, she whispered, "Now I understand what I was missing." The afternoon dissolved into shared stories, stolen kisses, and growing intimacy. As sunset approached, we walked the shoreline hand in hand, waves washing over our bare feet. "I should head back to the lighthouse," I said reluctantly. "Evening shipping traffic requires monitoring." I know. She stopped walking, turning to face me. "But first, I want to show you something." From her jacket pocket, she produced a small wooden box hand-carved with intricate patterns. Grandmother's tea ceremony set. She used it for special occasions, moments that mattered. She opened the box, revealing delicate porcelain cups and a tiny silver spoon. "I'd like to share a proper ceremony with you in private here at the lighthouse, if you'll have me." 20 minutes later, we climbed the spiral stairs to my private quarters above the beacon room. The space was simple. Bed, kitchenette, desk overlooking the Gulf. Eliza moved through it with quiet reverence, touching books, examining charts. "It's beautiful up here." So peaceful. Most nights she prepared tea with ritualistic precision. heating water to exact temperature, measuring leaves carefully, timing steeps with her phone. The ceremony felt ancient, sacred. In Chinese tradition, tea ceremony represents harmony, respect, tranquility, she explained, pouring amber liquid into porcelain cups. My grandmother said sharing tea with someone meant opening your heart completely. We sat cross-legged on my bed, knees touching, cups cradled in our palms. Outside, the automated beacon began its nightly rotation. To opening hearts, Eliza whispered, raising her cup. To taking chances, I replied. We drank in silence, eyes locked. Then she sat down her cup and kissed me again. This time, I didn't pull away when her hands found the hem of my shirt. This time, when she whispered my name against my lips, I answered by drawing her closer. What happened next was tender, exploratory, perfect in ways I'd never imagined possible. We moved together like dance partners learning new choreography. Each touch a question, each response an answer. The lighthouse beams swept past the windows, casting rotating shadows across intertwined bodies. Later, as we lay wrapped in lighthouse station blankets, Eliza traced lazy patterns on my shoulder. No regrets? She asked softly. None. You only that I waited so long to find you. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. I considered ignoring it, but Coast Guard protocols demanded constant availability. The message made my blood run cold. Saw your cozy afternoon at the beach. Interesting development for our environmental consultant. Call me tomorrow? Victor Halle. Eliza noticed my tension. What is it? Someone saw us today. Victor Halle. He's a corporate executive who's been asking me out for months. She sat up, sudden worry creasing her features. This could complicate things for both of us. Outside, ships moved through darkness towards safe harbor, guided by my lighthouse beam. But inside these walls, our secret world felt suddenly fragile, threatened by forces beyond our control. Victor Halle called at 7 a.m. Monday morning. His voice carried the entitled tone of someone accustomed to getting his way. Lauren, we need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee this morning? I'm on duty until 3 p.m., I replied, watching shipping traffic through the lighthouse control room monitors. This won't wait. It's about your weekend activities. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. I agreed to meet him at noon, my stomach churning with anxiety. Eliza and I had texted constantly since Saturday night, but neither of us mentioned Victor's message directly. Some conversations required privacy. Coastal Cafe sat halfway between the lighthouse and downtown Silver Point. Victor was already there when I arrived, wearing an expensive suit despite the casual setting. At 45, he was handsome in a corporate way. Graying temples, confident smile, watched that cost more than my monthly salary. You look tired, he said as I sat down. Late night? What do you want, Victor? He stirred sugar into his coffee methodically, direct. I've always appreciated that about you. He pulled out his phone, swiped to a photo. Interesting afternoon you had Saturday. My heart sank. The image showed Eliza and me walking hand in hand on the beach, faces clearly visible. Someone had taken it from the dunes with a telephoto lens. Invasion of privacy is illegal in Texas, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. Relax. I took it myself. I was surf fishing nearby when I spotted you. He pocketed the phone. Imagine my surprise seeing the lighthouse keeper I've been pursuing romantically with another woman. My personal life is none of your business. Normally, no. But when that woman is Eliza Rowe, it becomes my business. His smile turned predatory. See, I've been researching investment opportunities in sustainable agriculture. Rowe tea plantation keeps appearing in my reports. The implication hit me like cold water. You want to buy her plantation? I want to make her an offer she can't refuse. Having leverage makes negotiations easier. He leaned forward. One word to the right people about your relationship and her conservative client base disappears overnight. Small-town Texas isn't exactly progressive about these things. You bastard. Business, Lauren. Nothing personal. He signaled the waitress for more coffee. But here's the interesting part. I could also be very helpful to both of you. Strategic partnership, expanded distribution, government contracts, all contingent on certain arrangements. What arrangements? You have dinner with me tonight. Let me show you what a real relationship could offer. His hand moved toward mine across the table. Eliza Rowe is successful. I'll give her that, but she can't provide the future you deserve. I jerked my hand away. Go to hell. Think carefully, Lauren. Your lighthouse keeper salary is what? $50,000 a year. I could triple that. Corner office in Houston. Expense account, company, car. All you have to do is stop playing house with the tea lady. My phone rang. Eliza's contact photo appeared on the screen. Victor's eyes followed my gaze. Answer it, he said. But remember what's at stake. Hi, I said, throat tight. Hey, beautiful. How's your day? Eliza's voice was warm, affectionate. Victor listened to every word. Complicated. Can I call you back? Of course. Everything okay? Fine. Just lighthouse business. The lies tasted bitter. Okay. I love you, Lauren. The words hit like lightning. We hadn't said them before. Victor's eyebrows raised with interest. I glanced at Victor, panic rising. Talk soon. I hung up. Victor was smiling. She loves you. How touching. He finished his coffee. Makes this even more interesting. Think about my offer, Lauren. You have until Friday. He left a 20 on the table and walked out. I sat there shaking, coffee growing cold in my hands. 3 hours later, I was driving toward Plano despite being scheduled for evening duty. Kara had agreed to cover, asking no questions when she saw my face. Some emergencies transcended procedures. Eliza was in the processing facility when I arrived, supervising the afternoon harvest. Her face lit up when she saw me, then quickly shifted to concern. Lauren, what's wrong? We need to talk privately. She led me to her office overlooking the tea fields. I told her everything. Victor's photos, his threats, his business proposition. Her face grew paler with each revelation. The clients he's talking about, she said finally. They represent 60% of my revenue. Conservative buyers who value traditional family images. She collapsed into her desk chair. If they thought I was gay in a relationship that threatened their comfort zones, yes, she rubbed her temples. I've worked 8 years building those relationships. So, what are you saying? I'm saying we need to be careful. Maybe step back until this blows over. Step back? The words stung more than I'd expected. You mean break up? I mean, protect what we've both worked to build? Her voice was steady, but I could see tears forming. This isn't just about us anymore. It was never just about us. That's what made it special. We stared at each other across her desk, the tea fields golden in afternoon sunlight beyond the windows. Everything felt fragile, breaking apart. My phone buzzed. Traffic alert from the Coast Guard station. Shipping emergency required immediate lighthouse response. I have to go, I said, standing. Duty calls. Lauren, wait. But I was already walking toward the door, toward my truck, toward the lighthouse that never demanded anything more complicated than keeping its light burning. Behind me, Eliza called my name. I didn't turn around. The emergency was a cargo ship with navigation failures and heavy fog. I spent 6 hours coordinating rescue operations, my lighthouse beacon cutting through the murk while Coast Guard cutters maneuvered toward the disabled vessel. By dawn, the ship was safely anchored in Silver Point Harbor, but I felt no satisfaction in the successful operation. The routine that usually centered me seemed hollow now. Mechanical responses devoid of meaning. Eliza called 12 times during my shift. I let them go to voicemail. Lauren, please call me back. We need to talk about this properly. I understand you're angry, but running away won't solve anything. I love you. That wasn't just words. Please don't shut me out. The last message came at 3 a.m. Her voice was rough with exhaustion and tears. I've been researching prosopagnosia all night. Face blindness. I know it sounds random, but stay with me. There are people who can't recognize faces, but still maintain deep relationships through other sensory connections. Voice, touch, scent. Maybe we can learn from that. Maybe love isn't just about what we can see. I played that message 3 times before Kara arrived for the morning shift. You look like hell, she said, settling into the communication station. Rough night, cargo ship emergency. And the dozen missed calls from your tea plantation lady. I hadn't realized my phone was visible. Personal business, Lauren. Kara's voice was gentle but firm. I've known you for 3 years. You're the most competent person I've ever worked with, but you're also the most scared. Scared of what? Of letting anyone get close enough to hurt you? Of caring about something more than this lighthouse. She gestured around the control room. What happened to your parents was tragic, but hiding here won't prevent other losses. Her words stung because they carried truth. I built my life around duty, service, controllable variables. Eliza represented chaos, risk, vulnerability I wasn't sure I could handle. It's complicated, I said. The best things usually are. That afternoon, I headed to the medical library in Houston. If Eliza was looking into face blindness, I needed to know what it meant to her. Prognosia, also called face blindness, affected about 2% of the population. People living with it couldn't recognize familiar faces, sometimes not even their own reflection. They learned to depend on other ways of identifying people's distinctive clothing, certain hairstyles, voices, body language. The studies were both fascinating and painful to read. Couples who managed the condition well talked about communication, patience, and inventive ways to stay intimate. One case study stayed with me more than the others. A woman whose husband had developed prosopagnosia after a stroke described how she adjusted announcing herself when she entered a room, choosing signature perfumes, building verbal intimacy rituals to stand in for visual recognition. We had to fall in love all over again, she wrote. In some ways, it made our relationship deeper. Without superficial visual cues to lean on, every moment between them demanded real connection. I closed the journal, feeling understanding settle over me. Eliza hadn't been sending me random medical trivia. She'd been offering a metaphor for us. Maybe we couldn't see each other in the usual ways. Maybe the world wouldn't approve of what appeared between us when we looked at each other. But that didn't make what we shared any less true. By evening, I was back at the lighthouse, staring at my phone. Eliza deserved more than my silence. She deserved the truth, however frightening it felt. I called her as the sun went down. Lauren! Her voice sounded cautious, but hopeful. I read about prosopagnosia, I said. Your message made me think, and I realized I've been face blind too. Not medically, emotionally. I've been too afraid to see clearly what we already have. I watched the lighthouse beam begin its nightly rotation. I'm sorry for running away. You don't need to apologize. I understand why you were scared. Are you still scared? Terrified, she admitted, but also sure about something about you. About us. We talked for 2 hours, rebuilding bridges my panic had burned. She told me about the sleepless night, the research binge, the realization that love required courage she wasn't sure she possessed. I told her about Kara's words, the medical library, the recognition that my lighthouse had become a prison disguised as purpose. So, where does this leave us with Victor? I asked. I've been thinking about that too. What if we call his bluff? Meaning, what if we stop hiding? Not recklessly, but strategically. Build support systems before he can isolate us. The idea was radical, terrifying, brilliant. You're not talking about coming out. I'm talking about living authentically. Victor's power comes from our secrecy. Remove that and he's just another businessman making empty threats. We made plans to meet the next evening, not at secluded beaches or behind closed doors, but at a restaurant in town. A small step toward visibility, toward courage. After the call, I sat in my lighthouse quarters, listening to waves crash against rocks below. The beam swept its eternal arc across dark waters, guiding ships towards safe harbor. For the first time in days, I felt like I was navigating towards something instead of away from it. My phone buzzed with a final text from Eliza. "Tomorrow night I'm wearing jasmine perfume and that blue dress you liked. Just in case you need help recognizing me." I smiled, typing back, "I'll know your voice anywhere." That's all the recognition I need. Outside, ships moved safely through darkness, trusting lighthouse guidance. Maybe it was time to trust someone else's beacon for a change. Our dinner at Harborview Restaurant was strategic and terrifying. I arrived 15 minutes early, claiming a table near the windows overlooking Silver Point Bay. The maitre recognized me as the lighthouse keeper, nodding respectfully. Local celebrity had its advantages. Eliza entered at exactly 7:00 p.m. wearing the blue dress I complimented weeks ago. Her jasmine perfume reached me before she did, just as promised. She moved through the restaurant with quiet confidence, ignoring the subtle glances from other diners. "You look beautiful," I said as she sat down. "So, you ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be." We ordered wine and appetizers, talking about everything except the elephant in the room. The restaurant was half full, mostly couples enjoying Friday evening dinners. Several people recognized me. A few waved. Normal interactions that felt revolutionary under the circumstances. "How's business been this week?" I asked. "Interesting development?" I received 3 new wholesale inquiries from Austin distributors. Apparently, word about sustainable practices is spreading. That's incredible. It is, though. I suspect Victor might have had something to do with it. Preliminary market research before making his move. Our server approached. "Ladies, how is everything tonight?" "Perfect." "Thank you," Eliza replied, then did something that stopped my heart. She reached across the table and took my hand. "The atmosphere here is lovely for special occasions." The server smiled genuinely. "Celebrating something? New beginnings?" I managed, thumb tracing across Eliza's knuckles. After the server left, we sat holding hands across the white tablecloth, watching sunset paint the gulf in shades of gold and orange. "How does it feel?" Eliza asked softly. "Terrifying." "Amazing." "Right." I squeezed her fingers. I'm finally living instead of just existing." We finished dinner without incident. No confrontations, no dramatic scenes, simply 2 women sharing a meal, holding hands, being authentically themselves. The mundane nature of it felt miraculous. "Your place or mine?" Eliza asked as we walked toward the parking area. "Mine, if you don't mind lighthouse quarters." "I love your lighthouse quarters." 20 minutes later, we climbed the spiral stairs to my private rooms above the beacon chamber. Eliza moved through the space like she belonged there, touching familiar objects with casual intimacy. "I miss this," she said, settling onto my bed. "Missed you." We talked yesterday for 2 hours. Talking isn't the same as being close to you. She was right. Phone calls couldn't replicate the electricity of physical presence, the way her perfume mixed with salt air, the warmth of her body beside mine on lighthouse service blankets. "Eliza," I said, sitting beside her about moving forward. "Are you sure you're ready for whatever comes next?" "I've been thinking about that." She turned to face me fully. 8 years ago, I left a life that looked perfect on paper, but felt empty inside. Started over with nothing but determination and grandmother's land. Best decision I ever made. This is different, is it? Both required choosing authenticity over safety. Both meant risking everything for the possibility of something better. She was wearing a silver bracelet I hadn't noticed before. Delicate chain with small charms dangling from it. New jewelry. Grandmother's. I found it in her jewelry box last week. She touched one of the charms. This one's a lighthouse. She collected them from places she traveled. My throat tightened. She would have liked you being happy. She would have liked you? Strong, independent, dedicated to something bigger than yourself. Eliza's fingers found the lighthouse charm. She used to say lighthouses were symbols of hope, beacons that helped lost souls find their way home. Did you tell her that just to seduce me? She laughed, the sound rich and warm. Maybe. Is it working? Instead of answering with words, I kissed her, soft at first, then deeper as she pulled me closer. We moved together with familiarity now, no longer tentative or uncertain. Her hands found the hem of my blouse, fingers tracing skin with reverent patience. What followed was tender exploration of rediscovered territory. We made love with lighthouse beams sweeping past windows, salt air carrying sounds of waves against rocks below. Her whispered endearments mixed with my responses in a language only we understood. Afterwards, we lay wrapped in each other in warm lighthouse blankets, watching stars appear through lighthouse windows. I have a confession, Eliza said, fingertips drawing lazy circles on my shoulder. What? I've been researching lighthouse preservation. There are grants available for historical renovation, tourism development, educational programs. I propped myself up to look at her. What are you thinking? I'm thinking a tea plantation and lighthouse could make beautiful partners. Not just romantically, but professionally. Sustainable agriculture meets maritime preservation. Educational tours, overnight accommodations, specialty tea blends inspired by coastal themes. The idea was brilliant. You'd want to expand operations here. I'd want to build something with you. Something that combines our passions and expertise. She traced my collarbone. Assuming you're interested in long-term partnership, business partnership, every kind of partnership. My heart hammered against my ribs. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you want to stop pretending this is temporary. If you want to build a life together that we don't have to hide. Outside, the lighthouse beam continued its eternal rotation, guiding ships towards safe harbor. Inside, wrapped in Eliza's arms, I finally understood what it meant to be guided home. Yes, I whispered against her lips. To all of it? We sealed the promise with kisses that tasted like jasmine tea and possibility, while lighthouse beams painted, turning shadows across intertwined bodies and shared dreams. Monday morning brought Victor Hawley to my lighthouse door. He arrived uninvited at 8 a.m. wearing another expensive suit and carrying a manila envelope. You look refreshed, he said, surveying my appearance. Weekend went well, I assume. What do you want, Victor? He stepped inside the control room without invitation to discuss their decision. Today's my deadline, remember? I'd forgotten completely. The weekend with Eliza had erased Victor's threats from my mind. Now, reality crashed back like winter waves against the lighthouse foundation. I haven't changed my mind, I said. And you can't make me. Actually, I can. He opened the envelope, spreading photographs across my equipment console. Professional surveillance is expensive, but worth the investment. My stomach dropped. The images showed Eliza and me at Harborview Restaurant, holding hands across the table, walking to our cars, entering the lighthouse together. Someone had been watching from multiple angles. Impressive documentation, Victor continued. Should make quite an impression on the Coast Guard Disciplinary Board. Fraternization policies are strict, especially when civilian contractors are involved. Our relationship doesn't violate any regulations. Does it? I asked. He didn't answer directly. Using lighthouse facilities for personal entertainment. Compromising operational security by bringing unauthorized individuals into restricted areas. He tapped one of the photos. This alone could end your career. The worst part was, he wasn't wrong. I bent the rules bringing Eliza upstairs, telling myself it was for relationship building. The Coast Guard investigators would never see it that way. What do you want? I asked. Dinner. Tonight, he replied. Somewhere public where people can see us together. He gathered the photos into a neat stack. One evening. That's all I'm asking. And then we talk about more permanent arrangements. You're wasting your talents in this isolation, Lauren. I could give you a real future. As soon as he left, I called Eliza. He has photos, I said, skipping any greeting. From Friday night. Professional grade surveillance. Silence stretched between us. How bad? She asked. Bad enough to destroy both our careers if he decides to use them. I'm coming over. Eliza, no. That's exactly what he wants, more evidence. I don't care about evidence anymore, she said, her voice edged with a steel I hadn't heard before. I care about you. About us. About not letting some corporate bully run our lives. She arrived 30 minutes later, pulling into the lighthouse visitor lot like a dare. Kara was scheduled for afternoon duty, but I called her in early. Emergency consultation, I told her. I need privacy for a few hours. Kara showed up 20 minutes after Eliza, her gaze swept over our faces, catching the tension humming through the lighthouse. Whatever's going on, she said. I'm here if you need backup. I introduced her to Eliza properly, watching realization dawn across Kara's features. Ah, she said. The tea lady who's been making you glow for weeks. Problem is, I said, someone's been photographing us and making threats. Kara's expression hardened. Victor Hawley. You know about him? I know he's been sniffing around for months, she said. Asking about your schedule, your personal life. Creepy bastard. She folded her arms. What's he want? I laid out Victor's ultimatum, his threats, the photos, the dinner. Kara listened, anger simmering. Unbelievable. You can't give in to this. I don't want to, I said. But I can't lose my career either. This lighthouse is everything. Is it? Eliza asked softly. Everything? The question hung in the control room like morning fog. I looked around at the panels and screens that had been my refuge for 5 years. Equipment I understood. Duties I could perform. Isolation that had kept me safe from complications like love and vulnerability. No, I said finally. Not anymore. Then we fight, Eliza said. Together. Against Victor's money and his connections. He'll destroy us both, maybe, or maybe we get there first. Kara was nodding slowly. She's right. Best defense is good offense. What are you suggesting? Eliza pulled out her phone. I'm suggesting we tell our story before he can tell his version. Control the narrative instead of reacting to it. How local media loves lighthouse stories. Human interest, historical preservation, environmental innovation. Her fingers moved across the screen. Silver Point Gazette, Houston Chronicle, even Texas Monthly have contacted me about sustainable agriculture features. The idea was audacious. You want to go public completely? I want to go public as successful businesswomen who happen to be in love. Show them we're not hiding, not ashamed, not afraid. She found what she was looking for on her phone. Naomi Alvarez, Houston Chronicle lifestyle editor. She's been trying to interview me for months about female entrepreneurs. You think she'd be interested in our story? I think she'd be fascinated by a lighthouse keeper and tea, plantation owner who've combined environmental preservation with sustainable agriculture. The personal aspect just makes it more compelling. Kara was grinning. This could actually work. Get ahead of whatever Victor's planning. I thought about the lighthouse beam, cutting through darkness to guide ships safely to harbor. Maybe it was time to be my own beacon instead of hiding behind one. Make the call, I said. Eliza dialed Naomi Alvarez's direct line. Naomi, it's Eliza Rowe from Rowe Tea Plantation. I have an exclusive story you might find interesting. The interview was scheduled for Thursday afternoon, 3 days to prepare, to gather courage, to decide exactly how much truth we were ready to share with the world. After Eliza left, I stood at my lighthouse windows, watching her Tesla disappear toward the main road. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. 1 year later, I stood at the lighthouse control room windows, watching autumn sunrise paint Silver Point Bay in shades of gold and amber. The beacon had just completed its final sweep of the night. Automatic systems shifting to daylight operations. Everything had changed. Everything and nothing. The Houston Chronicle article had run 6 months ago under the headline, Love Lights the Way. Lighthouse keeper and tea pioneer blend business with romance. Naomi Alvarez had crafted our story beautifully, focusing on environmental innovation, historic preservation, and entrepreneurial courage. The personal aspects are mentioned tastefully, respectfully. Victor's reaction had been swift and vicious. He'd leaked his surveillance photos to conservative blogs, tried to pressure Coast Guard leadership into disciplinary action. But the positive media coverage had created protective momentum. Public support, environmental groups, even Texas tourism officials had rallied behind our story. The disciplinary hearing had been tense but brief. My service record spoke for itself, and bringing Eliza into lighthouse facilities had been reclassified as educational outreach. A formal reprimand, nothing more. Victor's business proposition to buy the tea plantation had evaporated along with his leverage. Eliza's sales had actually increased after the publicity. Boutique retailers embracing the romantic narrative of lighthouse love and sustainable agriculture. Now, 12 months later, our integrated operation was thriving. Roe Carter Maritime Tea Company operated from both locations. Lighthouse tours featuring locally sourced refreshments. Educational programs combining coastal preservation with sustainable farming. Wedding ceremonies at sunset with lighthouse beams as backdrops. Morning, beautiful. Eliza's voice came from behind me. I turned to find her carrying 2 steaming mugs, hair tousled from sleep. She'd been staying at the lighthouse more often lately. Her Plano house serving mainly as plantation headquarters. Morning yourself. How do you sleep? Like a rock. Those new soundproofing panels really work. She handed me jasmine white tea. Our morning ritual. Ready for today. My pulse quickened with familiar nervous energy. As ready as I'll ever be. The afternoon brought clear weather and gentle Gulf breezes. Perfect conditions for what I planned. Kara had agreed to handle lighthouse operations, asking no questions when I'd requested the entire evening off. At 5 p.m., we walked hand in hand along our private beach path, the same route where we'd shared that first picnic, where Victor had photographed us, where everything had begun and nearly ended. I love this time of day, Eliza said, watching pelicans dive for fish offshore. The golden hour, best lighting for navigation. Is that what we're doing? Navigating? I stopped walking, turning to face her. 1 year of shared mornings, lighthouse ceremonies, business meetings, quiet evenings. 1 year of learning that love required maintenance like any complex system. Attention and care and constant small adjustments. Actually, I was hoping we could drop anchor. Her eyes widened as I reached into my jacket pocket. The ring box was small, simple, purchased 3 weeks ago during a business trip to Houston. Eliza Rowe, I said, dropping to one knee on familiar sand. You taught me that the best partnerships combine different strengths toward common goals. You showed me that authentic living requires courage I didn't know I possessed. She was crying now, hands covering her mouth. Will you marry me? Will you be my permanent navigation partner through whatever weather comes next? The diamond was modest, set in recycled gold from a local artisan, but it caught afternoon sunlight like a beacon. Yes, she whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. I slipped the ring onto her finger, standing to kiss her as Gulf waves washed over our feet. She tasted like jasmine tea and salt air and promises we'd both learn to keep. I love you, Lauren Carter. I love you too. Eliza Rowe. Soon to be Eliza Rowe Carter or Eliza Carter Rowe. Well negotiated. We walked back toward the lighthouse as sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. The automated beacon began its nightly sweep, cutting through the deepening dusk to steer ships safely into harbor. Spring wedding? Eliza asked, turning her hand to admire her ring. Spring sounds perfect, I said. Here on the beach. Lighthouse ceremony. Kara can officiate, Eliza added. She got ordained online last month. Seriously? She said it was inevitable, Eliza laughed, the sound rich and warm. Figured someone needed to make sure we did this properly. Inside the lighthouse, we climbed the spiral staircase to our quarters, our space now. Tea processing equipment humming quietly beside navigation charts. Shelves crowded with our shared books, our lives folded neatly together. As we settled into bed, the lighthouse beam swept past the windows in its steady rhythm. I thought about everything that had led us here. Fear turned into courage. Loneliness replaced by partnership. Duty widened to make room for love. Any regrets? Eliza murmured, her head resting on my shoulder. Only that it took us so long to find each other. We found each other exactly when we were meant to, she said. When we were ready. Outside, ships moved through the darkness towards safe harbor, trusting the lighthouse to guide them past hidden dangers. Inside, wrapped in Eliza's arms, I finally understood that some beacons lead others home, while others guide you back to yourself. We'd done both for each other, and we'd keep doing it, through every storm and stretch of calm waters still to come. The lighthouse beam swept its eternal arc across the dark sea. No longer lonely. No longer isolated. At last brightly, fully home,